All right, we are ready to start today with some FRQ information for you. These are very important segments. They're relatively short. Please make sure, it even is good sometimes to be taking note on these. While I love being able to give you guys some very direct feedback on some of your FRQs and notes and all that, it's extremely time consuming. And so I'm trying to get a lot of this big information out in these video clips that everybody can see, and then stuff that's more particular to you that will help you, then I will conversate with you via Schoology, email, whatever. Again, continue to message me with any questions you might have. I'm well aware of the technology issues that are going on, and guys, here's what I think's going on. I know in the case of Schoology's problems, which have been sporadic, it wasn't as bad yesterday. They're getting overloaded with just all the people that are working at home across the country and using their platform. So that's happening. AP Classroom, let me give you a little update there. And again, I'm well aware of what's going on. I was trying to grade some of your alls and score some of your alls FRQs yesterday, and it started crashing again on me. It looks like they're also suffering from an overload. And so here's some advice. The earlier in the day you can work on AP Classroom, it's working better. In the mornings, it's great. About 3 or 4 o'clock, it starts hitting the skids, and it struggles until 8 or 9. And some of you who are the night owls, you're noticing you're able to work in the wee hours of the morning okay. So I think it's a workload issue. Now, again, I'm going to be realistic about this. And so when I assign an FRQ, the goal is we do everything we can to get it done that day. But if it keeps crashing, you can't get into the website, then I'm going to give another day per FRQ. But do not lag on this. If that second day, like yesterday's FRQ, well, yesterday was not a particular FRQ. I said finish ones you hadn't got done. Today, there's a particular FRQ. If you have not got that FRQ done tomorrow morning and you still can't get on, send me a message. I'll send you the FRQ in a Word document, okay? So we can get these done in a time mechanism that's efficient. I was going to go over the FRQ from, I guess it was the day before yesterday, but with all the crashing of AP Classroom, I'm going to hold that off one more day. Instead, I'm going to go over the one that you were supposed to have done by yesterday that I had assigned before spring break. And this is a great review segment. I think this could help a lot of us. It's got to do with reading graphs. It's got to do with reasoning, and it's also got to do with political geography and scale as well. So here's what, when you open this FRQ up, I'm going to walk you through how we should look at this. So I see the headline says selected districts in the United States House of Representatives. So I know, okay, so I'm talking about voting districts. So maybe in my mind, I'm already formulating, well, what do I know about voting districts? I know we talked about gerrymandering. I know how that favors a party when we redraw the districts. I know districts have to be redrawn every 10 years, and they take the number from the census. Guys, that's the kind of thinking that helps you prep for a question. And then I have more information. I have 2017 census information, population of several places. Okay, so here's the total population. Here's the places. I'm giving Delaware at large, New York's 13th district, Virginia's 8th district, Texas 11th district, Colorado's 3rd district, and Wyoming at large. If you don't know what at large means, that's okay. Hope we learn it right now here in a minute. But I think all of us can figure out that if they are at large, that is something different than saying 3rd district or 11th district. So that in essence is telling us something is different about the measuring scale of Wyoming and Delaware at large. Then I have a second graph, area and population density. And my key informs me that area is the gray, which means the bar graph on the left for each of these same locations and districts. And the black represents the population density. So the gray is area density, they make land mass, and the black is the population density. I see that there are really only 2 places where I can even see a population density of upwards of 2, 3, 4,000 or more. The others are really low. They give me the numbers so I can see it, 27, 15, 6, 485, 80,000, 5,000. And then I notice a relationship. The places that have high densities have low land areas or less land area. The places that have more land areas have less density. Now, my geographic thinking is going to tell me something here. What kind of places have high densities of people? Cities, urban areas. What kind of places have low densities of people, which means districts are going to have large areas? The opposite of cities is country, rural areas. So I'm already picking apart the information before I've even got to my prompts. Now I'm going to look at my prompts. Excuse me. Can't clear my throat this morning. And it says the graphs show information about selected congressional districts in the U.S. Most states have multiple seats in the House of Representatives, but some states are allotted only one representative. And then I'm going to read these. Identify one difference in the scale of analysis among districts. Using data in the graphs. B, identify one urban district. C, using the data in the graphs, explain how the relationship between area and population density affect the size of districts. I already have saw that B and C have a lot of connections. B says identify an urban district. That's going to be a short answer. One short sentence. C is going to explain that, basically. So I'm going to have a little longer answer to explain what's going on. D, describe one way in which the process of redistricting can be manipulated. If I'm you, I see that, I'm thinking gerrymandering, right away, gerrymandering. I'm going to write about gerrymandering right there. And I'm going to walk through the process, and I'm going to describe so I can't leave something out. That may take 3 to 4 or 5 sentences, maybe. E, explain one challenge a representative might face in connecting with rural constituents, people out in the country, as compared with people in the city. How that might be a different kind of challenge, right? F, describe the concept of a centripetal force with a political entity. And then lastly, using the data shown in the graphs, explain how popular representation in a legislature is an important centripetal force for federal states. Now, if I'm more comfortable with one part of this than another, I'm going to do it first, even on the computer. I know my centripetal force. I know what that is, so I'm going to attack F first, maybe. And then on G, I'm like, well, I don't know how to answer that one. I know what a centripetal force is, but I need to think about that. So I'm going to do F. Then I'm going to come back and do D, maybe, because I know what gerrymandering is. So if I do that, F, I'm going to say a centripetal force is a force that unites people within a state and brings a state together. And I might give an example. An example of centripetal force might be people having a common religion that shares the same beliefs. I think examples are helpful. Notice how short I kept it, though. I didn't have to go very deep on that one. Now, if I'm going back to D, describe one way in which the process of redistricting can be manipulating, I want to use my terms. And I want to underline them, too, if I can. Gerrymandering is a process of redistricting for political gain, where one party, political party, may redraw the districts to put the other party, their opposing party, as lower numbers in all the voting districts so they can win all the elections. I do think it's imperative. I think it's imperative that you go through the process because it says describe. Don't just say gerrymandering. Talk through the process. You could talk about the wasted vote, the stacked vote, excess vote, any of the three, but walk through the process to get credit on D. Okay? So again, I'm trying to act like you here. I did D, I did F. Now I'm going to go back to the start. I was pretty comfortable with those. Now I'm going to try to attack these others. A, identify one difference in the scale of analysis among the districts. Scale of analysis. Different ways, different levels of geography I'm studying at. What different levels are there up here? Well, I've got New York, Virginia, Texas, Colorado, Delaware, Wyoming. Those are states. They're all the same scale. But underneath those, I do have something different about Delaware and Wyoming. These others are voting district specific. Delaware and Wyoming say at large. If you don't know what that means, here's your introduction to it. At large means the whole thing. At large means everywhere in that state. So the different scales of analysis are entire states, Delaware and Wyoming, versus districts of states in New York, Virginia, Texas, and Colorado. There's your two scales, okay? I know some people struggle with that. Just fix it. Work on scale, okay? Keep seeing the scale stuff. They love asking questions about it. B, using the data, identify one urban district. Now, if I did my first reading right, this becomes easy. Where are my urban areas? Urban areas are going to have high densities. I've only got 2 locations that have high densities, New York and Virginia. So my District 13 in New York or my 8th district in Virginia is going to be my urban districts. And I should include 13th for New York or 8th for Virginia to get credit. We've already did D. E, explain one challenge a representative might face in connecting with rural constituents as compared with constituents in urban areas. Some of you all used examples like the rural people wouldn't understand the rural people as much because they would want different things. That's a good start, but you need to go further and you need to say, give an example of what the rural people might be concerned about versus the urban people. Like the rural people may be more concerned about how are you going to help farmers who are in need right now because of something going on in the community, whereas the urban area didn't really care about that very much. You also might answer it as in it's hard to connect with the rural area because they are more dispersed. That's a great geography way to look at it. Because they're more dispersed, it's a lot harder to have a town hall meeting as a representative with people living in the country than it is people living in the city where you can go to some gym or some reception area and have thousands of people show up. Okay? Either one of those are appropriate, but be as descriptive as possible on E. F, we already covered. G, using the data shown in the graphs, explain how popular representation in a legislature is an important centripetal force for federal states. Here is where we have to use our terminology. Guys, if you want to know what the test is probably going to look like, Coach Morgan's opinion, questions like G are going to be the kind of questions you get. You can't look that one up, okay? You've got to know your terms and concepts and apply them together. So we got to know what a federal state is. That's where the local government and the federal government is sharing some power with the local government. I know that a centripetal force is a force that brings a state together. So popular representation. Popular representation means basically that people have a voice to vote on their representation in the district. And with that, what is centripetal about that? Well, what is centripetal is when people feel like their voice is heard, they feel better about the state. They feel better about the state because they feel like they're listening to me. So the centripetal force would have to do with more local self-determination. And you really should use that term. Okay, because a federal state gives locals more power. They feel like their culture, their community matters. That brings them together and feeling like they all have a say. All right, that's the best way to approach G. Now, I want to go back up to one. I think I skipped it in going over it. I want to go back up to C. Using the data shown in the graphs, explain how the relationship between area and population density affects the size of districts. Many of you missed this point or just barely missed it. There's a conceptual understanding that has to be understood. How does the relationship between area and population density affect the size of districts? You noticed up here that the area, the gray bars here, the places that had large areas had small densities of population. Here's the background. Remember when we studied gerrymandering? The reason we redraw districts at all is because population shifts and changes over time. People move, birth rates, death rates, all that. So we redraw districts to try to make districts even in number to each other. In other words, what I mean is you want voting districts to be even in population. That's why some are large and some are small. The ones out in the country are going to be really large because it takes a large area to get a lot of people inside that voting district. But in New York City, it could be really, really small because it doesn't take a large area to get them in the voting district. So basically what's that question is asking on E or C, sorry, is the relationship is the larger the area, The larger the area, the lighter the population density. And the reason for that is the whole idea of drawing voting districts is to try to give equal representation to equal numbers of people. To do that, you're going to have some huge districts by land and some small districts by land, because some places have a high arithmetic density and some places have a low one. Review these terms. These are golden segments. These review segments of FRQs. These are as important as anything right now that you're doing. So any of these terms or concepts that have come up you don't understand, take them, look them up in your notes, look them up on OneNote, look them up in Google, whatever. But look them up and make sure you understand them for the future. Again, I understand the problems going on with AP Classroom. I put today's FRQ up yesterday, so some of you get a head start. A few of you did that. We will review the one assigned for yesterday in tomorrow's video segment and talk about some real important stuff relating to factors and infant mortality and natural increase rate, not really infant mortality, and some of those things. But hope this has helped. We'll continue to do these segments, and I may be offering some supplemental segments coming up over the next few weeks too.